And one of those issues that will be vexing and difficult for her is that of the Union. Yes, of course, the Northern Ireland Protocol needs to be dealt with. But what about Scotland? What is going to happen? How will the SNP view Liz Truss as Prime Minister? Well, joining me is Angus MacNeil MP, a member of the SNP, a believer, strong believer in an independent Scotland. Angus, I want to put this to you. The old Etonian, Boris Johnson, did not go down well north of the border, and that's perhaps an underestimate. And I know you yourself felt that Johnson was the best ever recruiting sergeant for the SNP and its aims. You must be actually a bit sad that he's gone.
Well, you said Boris Johnson was the best recruiting sergeant for independence of Scotland. I think the best recruiting corporal or lance corporal for independence of Scotland will be Liz Truss on her job now. So I'm really looking forward to her period of tenure. But you said earlier as well that the Tories were drinking the Last Chance saloon. Well, in Scotland, they've long left the Last Chance saloon. They last won in about 1955, and I think it was the 1983 or 87 election. They were talking about the doomsday scenario for the Tories, who are usually hovering about 1 or 2 seats in single digits in Scotland, very low on the opinion poll. So it's long past the Last Chance saloon for the Conservatives in Scotland.
Well, you're in electoral terms, or in terms of winning seats, you are, of course, absolutely right. They've been hovering at a pretty low number, the odd blip on the upside. I get that. But isn't there something funny going on here? That the SNP have been the utterly dominant party, both in terms of elections to Westminster and, of course, Holyrood as well. And yet, even though your party is so big and so dominant, when it really comes to a referendum, and the Scottish people stare down that barrel, it's not very likely in the next few years that Scotland's going to secede, is it?
Well, I think it is. I mean, in 2014, the SNP and the independent side put on 17%. And I think the next time we have a referendum, we'll put the percentages on again. I think the UK government under Boris Johnson was very scared of asking the Scottish people their opinion on a UK out with the European Union. We have to remember that the European Union was polling at 62% in Scotland. The European Union is more popular in Scotland than the United Kingdom. So we're quite willing to put that to the referendum test and ask the people. It's those in London that are running scared. And I noticed that Liz Truss today got about 45% of the Tory membership. And only yesterday they were talking about having a referendum act for Scotland, which would mean they would need more than 50% of the electorate, whether they voted or not. So by that sort of reckoning, Liz Truss shouldn't be going to Balmoral, Scotland tomorrow to accept the offer of Prime Minister from the Queen, because if it's good enough for Scotland, it should be good enough for Liz Truss as well.
Well, Angus, come on. I mean, they are two very different types of election. I mean, let's be honest about that. I mean, they really, really are. But let me also put this to you. For many, many years...
and reality.
well, they are different. But for many, many years, Alex Salmond, for many, many years, was a very charismatic leader of an energetic leader of the SNP. And one of the main arguments was that Scotland would survive, and would survive well, because of the gas and oil reserves that were there off the Scottish coast. And yet it seems that now Nicola Sturgeon and your party are going hell for leather for a net zero agenda, and that you're not actually very keen now for new oil and gas fields to open in the North Sea. Just quickly, if you would, how would Scotland, separated, how would it pay the bills?
Well, you'd have to ask the same question of Finland, you'd have to ask the same question of Iceland, the same question of Sweden, of Portugal, of everybody else. And you should know, of course, that since 1945 the UK hasn't paid the bills at all. It's been putting on loan and loan and loan, debt and debt and debt, and it's only paid back about 1.7% of all monies borrowed in the last 70 to 80 years. So to ask Scotland how would they pay the bills when the UK hasn't paid its own bills, I find is a bit rich. What we do see round about is the prosperity of Ireland having left the UK. There's the prosperity of Norway with its oil reserves and doing a lot for the green agenda as well. We're seeing how Iceland's getting on with the population of Dundee, and we're seeing how Scotland's getting on with a government we don't vote for a government we haven't voted for, a party we haven't voted for since 1955. I've no worries about how Scotland would get on after independence. I just don't think we'll be needing to send too many food parcels south of the border, Nigel.
Angus MacNeil, thank you for coming and joining us. And one day, I'd love you to come into the studio and tell me why Scotland would be better off inside the EU. We'll save that for another time, all right?
Very, very gladly, Nigel. Very gladly. I can do it now if you want.
Good, I look forward to it. I look forward to it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.